Dementia can have a devastating impact on any family.
Hi Sally, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Thank you very much for having us today.
Pleasure.
Earlier this week, I caught up with Alastair's wife Sally at the couple's home in Hampshire to find out how she has been coping with the news. So Sally, when I spoke to Alastair in the studio on Sunday, he spoke about how he had got early signs and suspicions that there might be something wrong. He talked about missing call times. He talked about at one point having trouble with his laces. Did you suspect in the run-up to his diagnosis that something was amiss?
Yes, I did. The first signs at home were him not being able to reset an old-fashioned clock we have in the kitchen. So I would say, the clock stopped, can you set it please? And then he would set it completely different time, random times. And he was forgetting things. He would forget days of the week, what month it was, that sort of thing. And then he would, if he had something on the next day, he would go to bed stressed and get up in the middle of the night.
And how long had that been going on for?
Only about a month before we went to the doctor.
Really? But then presumably this stuck out like a sore thumb, because we associate him professionally with being very much across his brief, being in full command of the facts. Is that what he's like at home?
Not really. He's always been forgetful. So at first, if I mentioned it to the children, they would say, "Well, that's Dad." You know, famously, he put his wallet. Has done it twice actually. Put his wallet on the roof of the car at a petrol station, then driven off,
Right.
losing the wallet. Put his briefcase down once to hail a taxi in London and got in the taxi and drove off and left the briefcase on the pavement. So that's the sort of thing he has done in the past. So things like that weren't a total surprise. But when it started to be like days of the week, months of the year, seasons as well, used to get confused what season we were in. That's when it started to ring alarm bells.
And when you went to the doctor and got the diagnosis, how shocked were you? Because you brace yourself, but you never think it's going to happen to you, right?
I wasn't shocked because I'd already guessed that's what he had. And the doctor, the GP, did a sort of, I think, quite a common test for dementia. And I was there in the room when he did it, and the answers he was giving were, a lot of them were wrong. So I kind of guessed. I prepared myself for it, but we didn't get the diagnosis for some time afterwards because we had to see various other people. And by the time we got the proper diagnosis, I wasn't at all surprised or shocked.
But how did it feel to hear it?
Very sad, very, very sad. But, you just have to get on with it, don't you?
I mean, the thing about what Al has told us in the studio is this sense to which he wants to convey that if you get a dementia diagnosis, it doesn't suddenly mean your world stops and that it's game over.
No.
Life continues. But how has it changed how he's been behaving, and indeed what impact has it had on your marriage, would you say?
I don't really think that it's affected him too much yet. I mean, he hasn't driven since November when we first got our suspicions, because he had an accident in the car. Not a big accident, but enough to cause concern. So I made that decision that he shouldn't drive, and he accepted that very easily, which surprised me. And that's an issue, because living here, we're not really isolated, but it does take a while to, you can't walk to a shop. You have to go into a car and drive to a shop. And other things that he would normally have done on his own, I now have to take him or do it instead of him. So that impacts. But we still have quite a busy social life, and we've got wonderful friends who are still involving us in their social lives. And I suppose I have my own social life as well. I'm still, I'm determined to keep going as long as I can with that. But there aren't any surprises, really. What we're having to go through, I had prepared myself for. So I don't know, it hasn't affected our marriage that much yet.
No. I mean, he said that he was worried for you because you're his wife and his lover, and now he's worried that you've become his carer, which I think lots of dementia patients will say about their own partners, that's hard to see them doing stuff for them that they want to do for themselves.
Yes, I mean, he does have issues with dressing sometimes, just simple things that I have to do for him and check for him. But he's also beginning to learn how to adapt and to, how to make things work within his parameters. So, we're doing sort of the best we can, really. And I think he doesn't want to overburden me. So he does try to do things for himself, but I do have a habit of double checking. So I don't go to bed now until he's gone to bed, because I then have to go around checking all the windows, all the doors, that the animals are safe,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So that's a bit of a problem.
I mean, looking forward, because you're kind of facing the unknown with how the disease might manifest itself, what's your biggest worry?
I suppose I really worry about the impact on the children.
Yeah.
And although they're sort of spread over quite a big age gap, I do worry that the implications for them. And our middle son, his girlfriend has somebody very close to her who's got it very badly, and the two younger sons have seen what it can do, and I think that worries them and makes them feel quite frightened for the future. But I think we're a long way away from that yet.
Yeah. Was it a really difficult decision for you both? I would imagine for Alastair, but also for you, when he thought to himself back in the spring, I'm going to have to step back from GBNews?
It was a relief. It was a relief, because I knew that something was wrong, and to go I've never been the wife that would sit there and watch every programme from beginning to end. And the same applied when he was doing regular GBNews stuff, which he loved doing. He really enjoyed it. But I was just worried that something might go wrong on air, because obviously it's live. So in a way it was a relief when he stopped doing it. I mean, I was sad for him because he so enjoyed it.
Yeah, and he's so good at it.
But it was a relief in a way that we got that diagnosis, so he had to step back a bit.
I mean, when you look back, he's had quite a difficult few years before he came to GBNews. He spoke about this to me in the studio as well. He'd had that stressful period when he left his last job.
Yeah.
Looking back, do you think that might have played some role in the diagnosis?
It was a very stressful time for him and for the whole family. Very, very, very stressful. And I think that could be part of it, yes.
I mean, you had telling me earlier that you had sort of paparazzi at the door. Yeah. The whole family's then co-opted into it. It was a big hoo-ha at the time. Obviously, things substantially calmed down once he moved into the GB role. But perhaps there isn't a coincidence there, but we might never know.
No.
He says that he's been helped by going out and walking the dogs for extended periods. Yep. He says he's changed quite a few of his habits, stopped smoking, which may have been a relief to you. Also, he doesn't drink very much anymore. Would you recommend those sorts of lifestyle changes to other people going through this?
Definitely. Yes. I mean, I don't drink much, hardly ever, and I've never smoked. So that's always something I struggled with. It was also the cost of cigarettes.
Yes.
I mean, he was spending £500 a month on cigarettes.
Crazy.
Yes. So yes, of course, I would say that was a very good idea. Yes, of course. And he has had a lot of help from Hampshire Health Authority with his giving up smoking. They've been brilliant.
Well, he said as well that he thought that the NHS had been brilliant in handling what has happened. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're the one taking into all of the appointments and all the rest of it, but how's that experience from a practical level been?
They have been amazing. From the day we saw our GP, who we'd never even met before. I mean, it was just, phoning up for an appointment, whoever was first available. Yeah. And he was brilliant and set the ball rolling. And I've been surprised up to this point how much help we've had. And that sounds cynical. I don't mean it to be, but you hear such awful stories about the NHS, and we've had experts from respiratory experts, cardiac, stroke, a psychiatrist for mental health in the elderly. We've had an occupational therapist. We've had a mental health nurse. Fantastic. And people keep saying to me, who've been through this experience themselves, is that once you're diagnosed, the help stops. And I suppose in a weird way, I'm waiting for that to happen. I don't want it to happen, but I'm waiting for that, no help. You're on your own sort of mentality.
Although I suppose the focus is always on the patient. And I'd be intrigued to ask you, as the carer, does the carer get enough attention? There are hundreds and thousands of people looking after people, their elderly relatives, their husbands, their wives, their children who have got different diseases and disabilities. Are they a bit forgotten and left behind?
I guess at the moment, I'm not really in a position to say from my own experience, because we haven't got to that point, really. We don't need carers yet, thank goodness. But I can't really answer that from my own experience, only for what I've heard.
And since Alastair came on my show, what's the feedback been like? Have you received? Tell
Amazing.
me.
On the day of the interview, the Sunday, and he came home, and he was exhausted because it took a lot out of him, I think. His phone didn't stop going, pinging all these messages. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I hate using a mobile phone. I don't do social media, but I've had a lot of messages as well. And we've just opened up a lot of letters and cards this morning from people, and flowers. So it's been tremendous.
And does that help? I mean, I suppose the kindness of strangers.
Yes. Well,
a lot of people you know, but also I'd assume some fans of his that just want to.
We haven't had any fan mail because I guess they don't have his address.
Yeah, although I've had lots on my Twitter feed, as has Alastair, and I think on the Instagram page, so many people just fondly remembering his very illustrious career and kind of sort of celebrating the bravery of speaking out, because I think it is still something that people are shy of being candid and open about.
I think people are quite shocked by that he had the nerve to do it, I think. But that's him, he spent his whole career in the public eye, really, and that's the way he is. That's how he does things.
On one hand, Alice is spinning a positive message that this doesn't need to mean that it's the end. He's still very lucid. Yes, he's got some motor issues, but he's being very positive. But from your perspective, you're alongside him, and I'm wondering how you feel about the future.
I obviously realise it's going to get worse. It was the psychiatrist told us that dementia tends to be like wide steps. So you're at a certain condition for quite a long time, and then there's a decrease, and you stay on that for the next however long period. So I know it's going to be a gradual process, and I know that it is going to get worse. But you just have to, I guess, take each day as it comes, make the most of what's going on at the time, and try and live life as normally as possible, and just see what happens in a few years' time. Who knows? And there are moments where I want to kill him. But that's the way it is.
Also, that's marriage.
Yes. Yes.
In a way. And it comes with its different challenges.
I'm sure he wants to kill me most of the time as well.
I'm sure he doesn't.
At least we've got space here to go out and, when it all gets too much. It's a bit like lockdown.
Yes. Is that how you feel you're living at the moment? Sort of.
Well, the strategies that I used during lockdown to survive, we all had our own little ways of doing things, I reuse here, now, in this situation.
Give me some example. Routine, doing the same things at the same time. Staying close to home.
Yes, I had to get up early during lockdown to do the animals, and I still get up early to do the animals, and that gave me a routine, which is important to me, and just to find things to do here, home-based, because I do go out and I do leave them behind, but I'm not for long periods at a time, and I think lockdown sort of taught us how to behave.
Yeah.
For now, really.